So I am coming to you today from sunny Connecticut. I will be here for a couple of weeks in between Connecticut and New Hampshire. And instead of recording inside, I figured I would be where the inspiration showed up. And if you are new to me, then you may or may not know that my happy place is close to water. That is a pool. And I have been sitting outside for probably a couple of hours, maybe 3, very sun-kissed. But whenever that happens, there is a ton of writing that comes out of it. And so today we are talking about how to create a practice that grows you, that nourishes you, and sustains you as you are making this transition from a life centered around success and achievements towards a life that is fueled and driven by a deep desire for meaning and impact with ease and what I call significance. And again, if you're new to me, I just read my reflections, one as kind of a FU to AI, but mostly because I all of this, what I offer is something that comes from inside, and I never want to let the need for production or perfection get in the way of that. And so the quickest, fastest, most honest way to share with you has just been to read it to you. So here goes. So many of my friends and clients have committed to living big, brave, different lives. They've chosen to honor themselves, to listen to the nudging in their spirit that there is another way, something different, something less draining, a way to live that's more fulfilling. They've decided to get off of the well-worn, albeit exhausting path to success and instead forge their own path. But here's the thing about opting out of what you know. The acceptable track and choosing the uncertainty, the newness of paving your own way. That shit is hard. There are no warning signs on this new path, no guidepost, no markers to confirm that you're going in the right direction. It is just you with you in the wilderness. I want you to imagine that for a second. You wandering in unfamiliar territory. Now, if you are anything like me, the very thought of that activates some sort of panic, some sort of, oh, hell no reaction. I absolutely abhor being or feeling lost. I hate feeling like there is some place I am supposed to be, but I can't or don't know how to get there. Nothing, and I do mean nothing, sets me off faster or more. Now that said, this life of purpose, alignment, and impact, the life of being chosen as a guide, is my life, and I have accepted that calling. And what that's meant is that I have had to find ways to support myself through the ups, the downs, the uncertainty, the vulnerability. That's all a part of it. Because the reality is, the moment you decide to believe that you are chosen, that there is something you are meant to bring and be in this world, that only you can be and bring, you are also accepting a life of uncertainty and unfolding, a life of intentionally becoming all that you are created to be. Not to go along to get along, but to live in a way that honors the gift in you. Your job from this point forward is to be fully and wholly in a world that values, affirms, and expects and encourages uniformity. To break free from that requires courage, conviction, and my God, does it require self-compassion. Courage to go against the grain, to believe something else, something other than you've believed for all of your life. It takes courage to take the first step, to try. Courage to hope, to question, to listen to yourself, to spend time with yourself, even when the world is clamoring for your attention and when everyone else seems to be getting ahead by not listening to themselves. It takes courage to choose this path, to choose different. But courage is only part of what you need, a third. Because a great starting without stamina, without endurance, without something to sustain you, falls flat. It doesn't finish, and it quits. And you didn't start this journey to quit. You started for a purpose, impact, joy, fulfillment. So what will keep you going? What will sustain you and support you for the long haul? What will carry you through when you are fresh out of courage, emotionally and mentally tapped out? What is that thing? Conviction. Conviction. Conviction is spiritual fuel. It is a deep-rooted, evidence-based belief that you are called, that you are chosen, that your life was curated for this, that if you look back on where you've been and what you've been through, you see all the evidence that you need. All of the confirmation you need is in the story, the lessons, the challenges, and the miracles that at one point felt and maybe even looked like mistakes. Conviction says, look at all of who you are and know that even your imperfections are intentional, purposeful, aligned, necessary for who you are called to be. Conviction is seeing yourself through the lens of the Creator, who is so pleased in your creation. The Creator is so pleased in your creation. So the funny thing about these things that I'm writing is that while I'm writing them to share, I am also writing them for me. Like, this is my practice. This is my spiritual gift. And when you are walking in your gift, you cannot walk this walk without living it. And so there is not one thing that I write about that I don't need to hear, haven't needed to hear, and haven't had to wrap my arms around as practice. So when I read that conviction is seeing yourself through the eyes of the Creator who is so pleased in your creation, and I pause, that is because sometimes we forget that the Creator is pleased with us and that we don't need to earn or fight for His approval. And I say His because it's whatever you believe. Like, you are the apple of the Creator's eye. Every imperfection was known. It is not a flaw. It is not something to fix. It is a part of what you need to be and bring your gift to the world. And if we can hold on to that, that is conviction. Conviction is fuel. It is food for the journey. And I want to pause here and note that if you are on this journey and you are feeling weary, and when I say on this journey, I mean being on this journey of shedding who the world expects you to be. If you are on this journey of no longer chasing something outside of yourself, if you are on this journey of getting to know yourself and who you were created to be and practicing becoming her, that's the journey. And if you are on that journey and you are feeling weary, most of the time that's a sign that you need to deepen your conviction. It doesn't mean that you're on the wrong path necessarily, but sometimes we need spiritual fuel for the journey, and that means we need to deepen our conviction, right? So the first thing you need is courage. The second thing you need is conviction. And the third thing you'll need for this new way of being, for this evolution that is you, is compassion. And this one gets me all in my feels because we are not in the habit of being compassionate towards ourselves. We expect to love others, our partners, our children, our parents, our siblings, and our friends. But loving ourselves, not so much. And God forbid you grew up with a narcissistic parent whose need for love and attention left very little for anyone else. You are even less inclined to extend your self-compassion because you don't want to be anything like that taking more than your fair share of compassion and knowing how it made you feel growing up. You have an aversion to anything that looks like, sounds like, or smells like that. But for this work, for this journey that you are on, for this paving of your own path, for navigating this newness, you have to be prepared emotionally for the inevitable, for the failure, for the falling, for the walking in circles, for being tired, uncertain, frustrated, angry, lost, confused. And you might be thinking, well, okay, that's life. Like, I've experienced that in life. And I'm like, oh no, friends. Oh no. Because this is different. Because on this path, it's just you with you. There is no one to blame if you get lost. There is no one to say, well, you didn't tell me, if you find yourself walking in circles. You are the beginning and the end. Anything that does or does not work is because of and a reflection of you. And that level of personal responsibility is not for the weak. It is next level. Next level. And if you are going to survive it, you are going to survive it. You will have to be more gracious, more compassionate, more patient, more forgiving of yourself than you have ever been. And I want you to pause for a second. I want you to think about how you treat yourself now when you make a mistake. When you drop a ball, when you fall off the wagon, how gracious are you with yourself? How compassionate are you with yourself? How patient? How forgiving of yourself are you? Exactly. This new way of being will require all three of these things: courage, conviction, and compassion towards yourself. Courage, conviction, and compassion towards yourself. Not just once, over and over and over and over again. This must be your new way. You have to create a practice that both constantly assesses and replenishes and refuels all three. Because the moment you stop making courage deposits, the moment you stop making conviction deposits, the moment you stop making compassion deposits, you open yourself up to be consumed by doubt, fear, and self-judgment. All of the things that will slow you down and get in the way of you being and becoming all of you. So before we move on to talking about how to create a practice that grows, supports, and sustains you, a practice that is rooted in courage, conviction, and compassion, I want to invite you to reflect on where you are in respect to all three of those. Where have you demonstrated courage in your life? Make a list. Don't rush it. Like, I don't want you to I don't want to feel like I'm bragging, or I don't want to. No, friends, make the list. That whole should be long. Pardon my language. But it is really important that you look back and collect all the moments where you have already done the thing, where you have been brave, where you have stepped outside of the norm and taken a risk. Like, collect those things. Don't rush it. And let me tell you, if you are here, you have been brave. I want you to look back and see where you were brave, see what the result or the effect of your courage has been. And I want you to recognize that that is important. It's also confidence building. When you look back at where you've been and all of the times that you have taken brave, courageous action, and you look at where you are, that builds confidence. And for the journey you are on, you are going to need that, right? Second, what are your thoughts about conviction? As you were listening to me talk about the conviction that is needed and thinking about conviction as spiritual fuel, what came up for you? What are your thoughts? What are your reactions to that? And then finally, I want you to reflect on your habit of self-compassion. How do you normally respond to yourself? And this isn't about judging how you are with yourself, as we are never in the business of judging ourselves. It is about facing yourself and seeing the opportunity you have to be kinder to yourself and to give yourself what you need. In our next conversation, we're going to talk through the particulars of how to create your own practice. But for now, I just want you to almost sit with yourself. Like pull up a chair, an empty chair. And I want you to imagine that in the chair opposite you, you are looking at yourself and all the places you've been and all that you've accomplished and all that you've survived. And I want you to gas yourself up and just take note of all the ways in which you've been brave. I want you to dig deep and imagine what a life rooted in conviction might enable you to do. And I want you to look at that version of you, the version of you who is sitting across from you, who is ready, my God, ready to pass the baton, to move lighter, to be lighter, to be loved wholly and fully for all that she is and everything that she is not. And I want you to love her. And it is from that place we will create a practice that will support you, that will grow you, and sustain you as you walk bravely, beautifully, lovingly, with conviction into what's next. I am rooting for you, and I'm so grateful to be able to walk alongside you for this part of your journey. We'll see you on the other side.